Seder. Welcome to the second shir in the series. The series about the Churban Abayis. From the Churban to the construction, Bezos Hashem. Today we're going to dive into the Gemara. However, it's going to be again learning pieces of the Gemara with a general introduction about the three different Churbanos that Am Yisrael experienced at the time of the Churban. Yes, there were three different Churbanos. This year is dedicated to Nishmas, my father, Menachem ben Akiva, and for the very, very quick release of all the hostages, Bezos Hashem, the victory of our soldiers, Bezos Hashem, and coming of Mashiach, Geula Shlema, Bimer B'men Amen. Instead of just learning about Geula, we're going to learn how to bring the Geula. I want to tell you something very personal. When I prepared for this year, for the first time in my life, I really felt how a Sinas Chinam versus Avas Chinam can really make a difference and how we can make a change. Bezos Hashem and bring the Geula. So thank you all for coming here. Thank you for those who are there in Torah anytime. We're in Gittin Daf Nun Hey Omud Beis, towards the bottom of the page. Before we start, we're in the fourth wide line, Omar Rabbi Yochanan. That's where the topic starts. How it made its way to Gittin is interesting, but it's not the topic right now. Fourth, Nun Hey Omud Beis, the fourth wide line. Okay, Omar Rabbi Yochanan. After the two dots, we have the words Omar Rabbi Yochanan. So, as I said, there were three different Churbanos, three different destructions that the Gemara discusses, and we're going to see the common denominator between all of them. And again, it's not just Sinas Chinam. And the interesting thing is that even when you learn Pashat Pshat, the Mishnah that talks about it in Tainis and in the Mishnah Brura, everywhere, what does it say? That on Tisha B'Av, what happened? Beis HaMikdash Rishon, Beis HaMikdash Sheni, right? Out of the five tragedies, you have Beis HaMikdash Rishon Sheni, okay, that's Yerushalayim, and you have Beitar. The destruction of Beitar that took place over more than 20 years after the actual Churban of Yerushalayim is a tragedy as of its own. So our Gemara is going to discuss the destruction of three different cities in Eretz Yisrael, major cities, each one representing a different potential spiritual power that unfortunately became a spiritual destruction and catastrophe. Each one of those three cities represented something which could have been so good and turned sour, and therefore was destroyed. It's Yerushalayim, Tur Malka, which literally means the royal mountain, the mountain of the king, and Beitar, the famous Beitar, not Beitar as we know it today, a different Beitar, and may they all be rebuilt. Amen. Says the Gemara, what we're going to do now is not read through the entire Gemara. We're going to read a piece, then I'm going to quote out of Maharal. Maharal is going to be our mentor for this evening, and we're going to see how the Gemara, in other words, I know you know this story, what Kamsa and Bar Kamsa. I think it's one of the earliest stories I heard in my life. I think I was 5 years old when I heard it first time, if not before. But there's always so much more depth we can learn about this story. So let's go. Omar Rabbi Yochanan. My dichtiv. What does it mean when it says? It says the pasuk in Tanakh. Ashrei Odom Mefached Tomid. Ashrei, however you translate, Ashrei, happy is the man, good is the man that is always mefached, always scared. Interesting. Or somebody's always at awe. Someone is always concerned. On the other hand, the one who hardens his heart, the one who has a hard heart, will fall into bed. He's going to fail. Interesting. So this is the opening shot, the opening line for all three Churbanos, something to do with the fact that it's good to be scared. This simple translation before we garnish it. It's good to be scared, and the opposite of being scared, the one who hardens his heart, he's going to fall into a bad place. That's what the pasuk says, and that's introduction for all three most major catastrophes that ever happened to the Jewish nation. And the Gemara is going to now give us the introduction, one line for each Churban. A kamtzu bal kamtzu chov Yerushalayim. Kamtzu bal kamtzu chov Yerushalayim means that we all know the story about the man who had one friend and one enemy, and we're going to see it soon. Bekitzer Sinas Chinam. Yerushalayim was destroyed because of people's lack of sensitivity, and Sinas Chinam, that's why Yerushalayim was destroyed. Tarnegoila v'tarnegoila v'tarnegolta charuv Tur Malka. The Gemara says later on that Tur Malka was an area in Eretz Yisrael where millions of people live there. The Gemara actually discusses how that is technically possible, and Maharal discusses whether that is the actual truth or some kind of spiritual metaphor. But it was a city, it was an area, not a city. It was a whole region that was very, very highly populated. There were many, many people over there, and they died because of a tarnigol and tarnigolis, because of a rooster and a hen. Yeah, male and female chicken. Yeah, rooster and a hen. That's why they died. Okay, I'll tell you the secret now. You can actually flip to the Gemara Weiter. Go now to Daf, Daf here. Daf, 1 second, Nun Zayin Amud Aleph. Go to Daf Nun Zayin Amud Aleph. We'll just read 2 lines from the story of Tur Malka, the second destruction. Go to Nun Zayin Amud Aleph, the 4th wide line in the middle. Yeah, the 3rd wide line, actually. Sorry, the 3rd wide line. What's the story? What does it mean that because of those 2 chicken, an entire region was destroyed? They had a minhag. That's when it all starts. The minhag, which was very, very, very sacred for them. There was a minhag. Ooh, don't fight with minhagim. Ki havu mapki chatana v'kalsa. Whenever they had a chosan and the kala going out to the wedding, at the wedding ceremony, at some point, there was chosan kala. Mapki kamayto negolav tonegolto. They would actually have a male and female rooster and hen chicken running in front of them. Kloimar, to symbolize. Very, very nice minhag. The chosan and kala are there, instead of singing, the guy's dancing, and the guy with the camera, and v'chulei, yeah, all that, and the shviger is crying, yeah. So instead of that, or in addition to that, they had the chicken there running in front of the chosan kala to symbolize piri v'rivya. That animal apparently, tends to multiply a lot, lays eggs all the time, and therefore that shows that the couple should be very fruitful, multiply. Very, very nice minhag. Yom echad, one day, until one day, Hava kacholif gunda de romoi. There was a certain group of Roman soldiers, a platoon or so of whatever legion of Roman soldiers. They came there. Sheklinu minayu. They took away the rooster and the hen. They didn't like it that the Jews have that segula for peri rivya. Maybe the Romans felt there are too many Jews around, they don't like that. And they took away those chicken. What I'm saying is based on Meforshim that I read. The Romans did it on purpose. They didn't like those chickens being around there. And then, Nofla Alay Mechunu, the Jews are very strong. The Jews actually attacked the Romans, and won. They won the battle, but they lost the war. We're not going to go through the entire story. Also, and then they told Caesar, the Jews are rebelling against you. I'm not going to read the entire story on purpose. That deserves its own shir, Be'ezras Hashem. I hope we get there. But Lamaisa, that was the story. They were very adamant to keep the minhag, and they felt very sure about themselves. We can win against the Romans. And at first they did. Eventually, what the Romans did was horrific. There were 600,000 cities. That area belonged to Yanai HaMelech, and they killed all of them. It was a horrible, horrible massacre. October 7th times a lot. I'm sorry for the comparison. Yeah, unfortunately, we're in Golos. Yeah, it's not funny at all. Yeah, but basically, that's what went on there. Now, with your permission, we'll go to the 3rd one. Again, let's stay in Daf Nun Zayin Amud Aleph. Nun Zayin Amud Aleph, it's a much shorter story. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 more. From the bottom of the page, in the same page we're now in Zayin Amud Aleph, go towards Asaka de Rispa Chorov Beitar. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7 lines from the bottom of the page. The line starts with the word Beitar. What was the minhag in Beitar? Also a very nice minhag. What was the story there? In Beitar was destroyed, an entire city which was very strong. It was a fortified, militarily strong city. The Maharal keeps stressing. It was called Krach, Choshuv Krach Godol Shel Beitar. It was like a military thing. It was a very, very strong place. The Havu, and what did they do there? They were destroyed because of the side of the chariot. The side of a chariot. What was the story? Davanigi, that a minhag. Again, that a very, very choshev minhag. Whenever a baby was born, Shatli Arza, whenever a baby boy was born, they would be shotel. They would plant a tree. What kind of tree? The strongest tree that there is, that we know in Torah, is Erez, Siddur, Cedar, not Siddur you daven from, yeah? The Cedar tree. Yeah, Siddur is also strong, much stronger. They would plant an Etz Erez, the male one, if a male was born. Yenukta Shatli Toranisa. Apparently, Rashi says at the end of Maseches Shabbos that the Siddur tree has male and female, like many other trees. Yeah. So when a baby girl was born, they would also plant a female Erez. And why? Because it's strong, and we're a strong city. We are strong people, and we're frum. The chihavu means savi. When the boy and the girl would get married, the same boy that had the male erez and the girl who had the female arza that had the female cedar kaitzelu, they would cut the trees. The avdu ganana would make a chuppah out of those, to show, says the Maharal, that they're going to have a Bais Neman, Yosed Neman. He's going to have a strong home. Yeah, Yom Echad, one day, one bitter day, Havu Kachalfa Balte de Kesar, the daughter of Caesar, and the Maharal says why it's Dafka daughter, not a son. We're going to get there. Very, very interesting. The Maharal explains every word in the Gemara Kemat. The daughter of Caesar, she happened to pass by in her royal chariot. It Barsaka de Rispak, what a flunk doozy. What happened? The side of her chariot broke. Car accidents, they're not new. I guess it happened in the past. Katsu Arza. So what did the Roman soldiers, whoever was accompanying her entourage, what did they do? They cut one of those cedar trees that were meant to be for the chuppah of Beryl Shmerel. Yeah. The Ailula, and they brought it to the chariot. Asu Naflaloi. Yeah, they fell upon them. In other words, the Jews, came and we're not going to allow that to happen in our strong Beitar. No way. And what are we going to do? The Jews, they attacked those Roman people, the entourage of the daughter of the Caesar, and Machunu, and the Jews won. They won, and they managed to smite those Romans, but again, a bitter victory. Also, they told Caesar, the Jews rebelled against you. Also, Alayu, that's a much shorter story. And he came upon them, and needless to say, the final victory, until Mashiach comes, is that Beitar was destroyed. The strong city of Beitar was destroyed. So what's the common denominator between all three stories? One is Ben Adam Lachaveroi, and there are two other stories that have to do with people that adhere to their minhagim in the price of losing their lives. Yeah? Some people are like that. But what's a common denominator? Well, the Gemara itself says what common denominator is, and the Maharal helps us. What does the Pasuk say? The Pasuk says, Ashrei Odom Mefached Tomid. The person who's mefached is not a person who's scaredy cat. Mefached means a person who has awe. A person who calculates what he does, what he doesn't do, is a good person. He's always concerned, and he also is mefached, says Toises, the Gemara says in other places, mefached maveros shebeyadoi. Yeah, when you do something so courageous, you want to fight against goyim, okay, but you have to be aware. Maybe you have averos, maybe you have averot, maybe you have sins. So therefore, make a cheshbon nefesh. Try and calculate. Do I deserve to go to war? Maybe I have something. Maybe I have sins within me that need tshuva. Maybe those Romans came. Maybe I shouldn't fight. What's mak shaliboy? I'll tell you what's mak shaliboy. Mak shaliboy is a four-letter word. Smug. S-M-U-G. Smug. Yeah. In other words, complacent. Mak shaliboy ipol baro. Those people in Yerushalayim, each one in a very different way, and we're going to get to the fun part now. Each one was smug, complacent, feeling I'm on top of the world, and I can do whatever I want. I can kick that guy out of the meal, and nobody's going to tell me what to do. Well, nobody did, actually. I'm going to fight against those Romans, and I'm going to fight against the Romans again because I am the top of the world. Yeah, we are the world, as they say, and that's it. Yeah. Says the Maharal, each one was relying on something else. Yeah, they were relying really on themselves, but what made them being so self-reliant, so smug, so I can do it all kind of mentality? I'll give you Yerushalayim for the last. I'll change the order now. Bilshus Gemara Kedosha. Beta, no. I'll start with Tur Malka. Tur Malka had many, many people. And people have the tendency to think, and I'm really, when I prepared this year, I had to censor a lot of examples from today's Jewish life in order not to be over Sinas Chinam and Lashon Hara of the Remez. Certain groups, however, I'm talking about, I don't know, people in China, yeah? Sometimes when a certain group becomes very, very big, very large, and they have many families, they feel that's it. There are so many of us, so we just don't, we're not accountable to anybody else. We can behave whichever way we want. We can do whatever we want because there are so many of us. Tur Malka, we're so many of us in Tur Malka. Says the Maharal, what's Tur Malka? Which pasuk do we know all the time in halacha? We say it every Purim when we learn halacha, and every time when we make kiddush and many other halachic scenes. Beroiv am hadras melech. We all know that. Melech, yeah. Why do you read Megillah with many people? Yeah. Why do you make kiddush for other people and many other halachas? Because the Muslim, whatever, sometimes, yeah, the mizuman, beroiv am hadras melech. The more the royal, and melech has many people around him, right? How many people at Buckingham Palace who have British guys? Many, I guess, servants and people of the Chulei. It's all business, the whole show. So Tur Malka said, we are royal. And there are so many of us. We are smug. We are it. Nobody's going to manage against us. How sadly they were wrong, because they were not trusting Hashem, they were trusting their numbers. And they were frum people, they were religious people. Bais Sheni, Gimel Averes Chamoras, those nasty people who did all those sexual sins and all the Retzicha, they belong in Bais Rishon. It existed also in Bais Sheni, but Bais Sheni has been through a lot of material. Bais Sheni, the picture is, they had a big one over here. Big kippah, and there were other things going on at home, whatever, not everything filtered, but Lamaisa was a frum society in general. Of course, there were tzdukim and baitusim. I'm talking about the prushim, the frum ones. They relied on the fact that there are many of them. That was the story in Tur Malka. Was the story in Beitar? Beitar was a strong city, was a citadel, was like a fortress. And therefore, we are strong. And that's why, yeah, and by the way, you see that each one also accentuated that point. In Tur Malka, we're going to, when we have a chosen kala, we don't care so much about other things. Oh, the chicken. We want to make sure they're going to have a lot of children, because that's our power. Our power is in numbers. So, I don't think I would feel comfortable as the chosen if they start having chicken and running in front of me to make sure I have a lot of children very quickly. It's a bit pressurizing. But, but that was their mentality of Tur Malka. I'm going back to Beitar. Beitar cared about Erez Belevanon. Erez, it says a few times in our sources, Erez is a strong one. We are strong. We are big. We're military. HaKadosh Baruch Hu, yeah, we trust Hashem, of course, because we're frum. So we have to say that we have bitochen. But really, they trusted their might, the power. And that's what happened. And that's why they had a strong Erez and a strong female Erez. And the Chuppah Shot, they're going to have a strong home, whatever strong means, yeah? And therefore, and that's exactly when they fell. Why was it the daughter of Caesar? We're going to see that later. Very, very nice idea. The third one, which is really the first one, is Yerushalayim. What do you say about Yerushalayim? Yerushalayim, we have a guy, Anonymous, Mr. Anonymous. He's not Kamsa, not Bar Kamsa, right? And Mr. Anonymous, who did this horrible act of kicking out Bar Kamsa from his meal, so he felt very smug. He felt that he can do whatever he wants. He's not accountable. Could be because he was rich, and that's it says the pasuk in Mishlei. It says Tachanuni midaber rash v'ashir ya'aneh azois. Naturally, a poor person is mitchanen, is begging, is more, is if it's bad, it's flattering. If it's good, he's more humble. And ashir ya'aneh azot, the rich person is more naturally has more azus, more chutzpah, more yeah, more azus. Now, but there's another point here. Why were they so smug in Yerushalayim? You know why? Unbelievably, because they had Beis Hamikdash. They were a very religious society. Yeah, the Prushim there were very frum people, and they trusted, in a wrong way, they trusted the fact that they're Beis Hamikdash. If I have Beis Hamikdash around me, and I'm a frum person, it means I'm number one. I'm it. That's it. Yeah, and I can do whatever I want. Because the other guy, he's not as frum as me. He's not. I belong to the right group. Everybody else are wrong, right? And Beis Hamikdash, the Kohanim from my group, they're the right ones. And you're at Beis Hamikdash. And it's all so nice and so good. And they have whatever. I have delis and restaurants and everything good and everything religious. And it's all going so well. And that created the feeling of smugness. And the Ki'ilu trusted Ruchnis, they trusted Hashem, but it was wrong. It wasn't the right direction, as we're going to see later. And as we said before, the whole idea of Beis Hamikdash was the strength of Beis Hamikdash Bais Sheni, that did not have a Shras Shechina. The Oren Kodesh wasn't there. The real Nisim were not there. From the second half of Bais Sheni, Beis Hamikdash was, I'm sorry to say, a rather shallow place. The Kohanim Gedolim bought the Kehuna, right? They all bribe, and a lot of A lot of injustice was going on in the second Beit Sheni. The menorah was not lit the whole time, not benes, yeah, only when they lit it. Many nisim were not there. It was just, so what was the only saving grace of Beis Hamikdash Hasheni? The fact that you have one place. I almost said temple. Yeah, they call it the second temple. The second temple, the one place where everyone's supposed to gather around, because what's halacha in Beis Hamikdash? As we said before, the whole idea of Beis Hamikdash, you can serve Hashem at home. You can serve Hashem in your own shul. There are gazillion shuls in the world today. The whole idea of Beis Hamikdash was not to have your own shul in your own group. The whole idea was that you have to bring it to Beis Hamikdash. If you bring your korban outside Beis Hamikdash, you get chores for each and every act, which means the Beis Hamikdash was all about unity. Yeah, it's all about Achdus. Yerushalayim Horim Sovivlo. It's all, yeah, Yerushalayim, according to the Gemara, Yuma Yud Beis Amud Aleph, it was not even belonging to one Shevet, according to one opinion. It belonged to all the Shvatim. And if you go and you have this group and the other group, you're missing the boat. You're not really relying on Beis Hamikdash. You're relying on yourself and your egoism, and you are disguising it in the clothes, in the disguise of I am under Beis Hamikdash. Now we're going to see much more, much more. I want to give examples. I'll do that later. Let's first of all start with the word kamtza. A kamtza b'kamtza chov Yerushalayim. We're not reading the Gemara further yet. Says Ramaral as follows. Why was it that the name of the person, the star of the show, is called kamtza? And says Ramaral, Divrei Chazal amuk himem me'oid me'oid. The words of Chazal are very deep. Each name mentioned in the Gemara, each episode have a reason. Why is the person, the star of the show, called Kamtza Ubar Kamtza? It wasn't just by chance that these were the names of the people involved. By the way, one of them was not even involved, right? Yeah, Kamtza, throughout the whole story, was sitting at home. He was watching TV, from TV. I don't know, he wasn't even there, right? That's another question. Kamtza Ubar Kamtza, says the Maral, you know what's Kamtza in Aramaic? I'm not going to give you an Aramaic test now. Kamtza is locust. Kamtza is arbe. Arbe, yeah, the market in Mitzrayim is arbe. What is something that's interesting about arbe? Shlomo Melech says in Mishlei, as a pasuk, it describes 4 different animals there that we can learn something from. The arbe is called Melech Ein LaArbe. It's a pasuk in Mishlei Lamed Kav Zayin. The arbe has no king. What's arbe? Who was told harbe arbe es zarecha? Hagar and Avraham Avinu were both said, you will have many children. But Hagar got out of control. We know. Yeah, harbe arbe. There will be many. There are many locusts. Yeah, you don't see one locust alone, hardly ever. Usually they come in groups, but there's so many of them. Says the Maharal, the smaller you are, the more there are of you. The more details there are from the type, because there are so many of them. Look at microbes, germs. Yeah, there's so many of them, and they're so tiny, invisible. The harbe represents an insect that is so small, and there are so many of them. The arbe has no king. What does a king mean? King, a real king, is one that's supposed to unify everybody, to unite everybody under one group. You look at the Meforshim in Mishlei, they actually praise the arbe, that even though he doesn't have a king, they managed to work very nicely together and destroy the whole field together within minutes. Yeah. Another animal called a kamtza in the Gemara is an ant. An ant also is very small, and they work nicely together. But people can get worse than animals. Why? Because when you're kamtza, bar kamtza, it means there's so many groups and subgroups. I can't say what I mean, but you all know. Look at the frum world today. Yeah, there's A, B, C. Then it's like a flow chart that doesn't end. Yeah, it's like a mathematician's nightmare. Yeah, every turns into 2, and every becomes another one, another. Yeah, there are so many types of this and that and the other. It's like an arbe. It's getting out of control. There are so many groups and so many individuals. That's why it's called arbe. The arbe has no king, and it manages to be united, but we don't. That's why it's called kamtza bar kamtza, because there are so many details, so many little people. There are little people. When you have to create your own group and you don't like the other one, it shows how small you are. Yeah, the big animals, they don't have millions of them. They have a few of them. You know, how many lions? I don't know, 10, 20 in a group. I don't know, in a pride. Not millions. They're big animals. The smaller you are as an animal, the more separate you are, the more details you are. There's me and you and so many of us. Now, the Maharal asks a very valid question. All these questions are valid. He's asking one question, and I'm adding another question. Question number 1. What was the problem? And that's even before reading the story. Okay, you know the story, right? So I'll read the story inside, and then I'll ask you the questions of the Maharal. Okay, Kamsa ba Kamsa Chov Yerushalayim, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 lines from the bottom of the page. There was a man, his friend was called Kamsa. 5 lines from the bottom of the page. Ubal Dvove Bar Kamsa. His enemy was called Bar Kamsa. No, I'm sorry. I'm back to Nun Hey Omud Beis. Sorry. Nun Hey Omud Beis, bottom of the page. Nun Hey Omud Beis, Gitin, bottom of the page. So his friend was Kamsa. His enemy was Bar Kamsa. And Ovet Sudoso, he made a nice party, a meal. Omar Shame, he told his Shamesh, he told his servant, Zil Aisil Kamsa. Go and bring me Kamsa. Call Kamsa. In other words, it was a nice letter, you know. The email didn't work for some odd reason. The Wi-Fi didn't work, so he went to the old shita, the old way. He actually got a person to send him an invitation. What a sad mistake, technical mistake. Instead of inviting Kamsa, he invited Baal Kamsa. Now, it doesn't sound like they were father and son, according to Rashi. Some people say they were father and son, some say they were not. They were not connected. Also, Yosef, so the guy came to the meal. The enemy came to his enemy's meal by kind of mistake. Maybe he hoped that, you know, they're going to make up. He told him, by the way, he spoke to him in third person, you know, irrespectfully. You know, like in Yiddish and many other languages, you say him to the person, you know, like you say the rabbi instead of saying you. Yeah. So he told him in third person, will thou, you know, buzz off, get out of here right now. Yeah. What are you doing over here? Kumpu, get out of here. Get out of my sight. Omerle, and then he told him, Shavkan, please, I'm here already. Have Rachmanus, leave me here. I'll give you the price of what I eat. Whatever I eat and drink, only $100 for my portion. I'll pay you for that. Nun vav umdalef. Omerle, lo. No way. Nun vav in English, no. Omerle, no. You see, the name of the daf works very well with the content. Omerle, no. Omerle, I'll give you half of the entire cost of the meal. Yeah, the meal, the singer, the flour, the smorgasbord, just the singer cost $1 million. Amalei lo, he said no. Amalei even I'll pay for the entire meal. Amalei lo, no, nakte biyoda v'ukme v'apke. At some point he felt it was too much about Bais. He took him by his hand, he got him and he grabbed him out of there. Okay, very nice. Yeah. Omar, and now said the guy who was now Baal Kamsa is from some reason a little bit insulted. Rabbanan were sitting there and they didn't say anything. They did not protest. It means that they're happy about it. The Rabbanim sitting there and they didn't tell him anything. I guess Mr. Anonymous, his name is not known. Mr. Enemy, yeah, Mr. Obnoxious was probably a very influential guy. He probably donated a lot of yeshivas, I guess. The kids are, yeah, so he took that as silent consent. And what did he do? I'm stopping here the story on purpose. And then he snitched on them. He made that deserves a whole different shir. What he did exactly, that's the second scene of the story. And he snitched against them to the king of Rome. And the rest is history. Says the Maharal, why is the Gemara telling me, Kamtzu bar Kamtzu zechor Yerushalayim? What does it say? Yerushalayim was destroyed because of Kamtza and Bar Kamtza. So I would say the difference between Kamtza and Bar Kamtza, but Poshup Pshat, translation. Art scroll, anybody? It says Yerushalayim was destroyed because of Kamtza and Bar Kamtza. Bar Kamtza was a victim which turned into an enemy. He was the one who was all his fault. Yeah, whether we blame him or not. Maral says was a Rosha. He shouldn't have snitched on everybody. Yeah, but Kamtza himself, the Balabais, his name we don't even know, and he's the main culprit. Kamtza himself, he was sitting home. Okay, I wasn't watching TV. He was learning. He's not part of the story. Why is he mentioned here, Bechlal, right? Why is it relevant? Yeah, Kamtza himself, why is he in the story? And you say because of him and Bar Kamtza, Yerushalayim was destroyed. Answers the Maharal, when you have an enemy and you're so horribly obnoxious and so insensitive and so full of sinas chinam towards Bar Kamtza, then even your friendship with Kamtza is worth very little. So when you have this nice concept of, I have my buddy, I have tribalism, I have this like people in my clique, and I like them very much, but that person, I hate his guts, not going to work for you. You can't sing the song of Achdus when you open the school for the girls who are an offshoot from 5 other communities, and they're starting their own school, and the first song that they sing is Achdus. You're not about Achdus. You're about sectarianism. You like your own girls, you like your own staff, very nice. It's worth something, maybe, but on the whole, if you hate the other group, it's not worth much. I don't know. I don't know how he hated him. It doesn't look like Bar Kamsa was a nice guy, because we see how his reaction was. Maral says that he was Rosho at some point. So I don't know why he hated him, or maybe that's the point. It doesn't make a difference why. At the end of the day, we're going to get to another point soon from the Netziv, and even if the person is not a good person, you're not supposed to hate him. Very, very, very rare cases. So that's sinas chinam. Sinas chinam means there was no good enough of a reason to hate him. Now, here comes another question, which can be answered right away, I think. The main question is, many Mefarshim ask the question, in Yuma Daf Tes Amud Beis, which we read on Thursday, it says that in Bais Sheni, during the times of Bais Sheni, the people had Torah, mitzvahs, the Gminus Chasadim. And the same line the Gemara says, it was destroyed because of Sinas Chinam. Excuse me, what's going on over here? Everyone's asking, that Gminus Chasadim and that Sinas Chinam. Hello? Anybody home? Gminus Chasadim or Sinas Chinam? There are many different answers. Yeah, many different answers. I think the answer, according to the Maral, I want to stick to the Maral, it screams, they did a lot of chesed to their own people, which is nice, which has its own zchus up to a point. I'm sure that if Kamsa, his beloved friend, would have come to the meal, they would have treated him very nicely. Maybe lent money to Kamsa, maybe he was very nice to Kamsa and gave him respect. But when you hate Bar Kamsa so much, at the end of the day, your love for Kamsa in a way is even more bitter. Yeah, it shows how you choose to just love your own, and you're creating more and more tribalism, more and more like, either it's family, so it's nepotism. It's all about my group against the other group. That's worse than the Arbe. Even the Arbe, the Kamsa, the animalistic Kamsa, at least know how to work together, even though there's so many of them. We are like Kamsa that fly each one in a different direction and hitting each other, in the face. It's much worse. We get worse than animals when we're so many little groups of ours and so much hatred. It's even worse than that. So that's possibly another answer. Now, to get, we have much more to say. So I think tomorrow I'll say now I'm going to read to you a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful piece of the Netziv. The Netziv has a beautiful akdama for the Chumash. Netziv's unbelievable mythological parish on the Chumash. So the Netziv says beautiful and almost painful words to read. It's so true, so relevant for today what the Netziv is saying, and he's explaining more about the sinas chinam, the nuanced sinas chinam of Bais Sheni. They're good for people, they loved their friends, and yet sinas chinam destroyed the house, the Beis Hamikdash. We have time just for the Netziv, the rest we'll have to wait for tomorrow. There's more nice stuff coming. Now, says the Netziv, it's well-known fact, more in the Dazor Daf Chafei Amud Aleph, I think, it says that Sefer Bereshis is called Sefer HaYosher. Each one of the Chamisha Chumshei Torah has its own nickname. Sefer Bereshis is Sefer HaYosher, the Sefer of the straight path, because the Avos were straight people. The Avos were the ones, it's a Sefer foundation. The foundation of all other Sforim is Bereshis. Foundation has to be very, very, very straight and strong. Yeah, 1 millimeter the wrong way, you get the Pisa Tower, and it's going to fall. Says the as much as I can, I'll read now from the Netziv. Yosheru, Tzadik v'Yosheru. Yeah, why did Hashem destroy Bais Sheni and Yerushalayim? Because Hashem was Yosher. Hashem was Yosher. Hashem is straight and could not tolerate the kumkite, that lack of yashras, that twisted thinking, which was all very religious in Bais Sheni. They were ikeshuptaltol. They were like twisted. Did you hear that? Bais Sheni were tzadikim v'chasidim v'amelei Torah. Everyone pays a zoi, koil the whole day. The way they conducted with other people was something not yosho. Some kind of crookedness was there inside. Al Ken, now he says the big chiddush, and he's quoted a lot for this line. Because they had inner senseless hatred in their hearts. Listen to this. Whoever is not like me in Yiras Hashem is already tzeduk and apikoires. The guy doesn't wear my color of kippah, my color of shirt. He thinks a little bit different. So he's a tzedukah. He doesn't have his different way in avodas Hashem. He's an apikoires. Whoever doesn't belong to my group and only my tiny group of locusts, of Yira Shamayim Tzadikim, then what? He's an apikoris. That's sinas chinam. You don't need to have reasons anymore. At the end of the day, they came to murder also. Everything bad happened because of that. Now Hashem is the one who is the right one. Hashem is straight. Hashem cannot tolerate such tzaddikim. It's not enough to be tzaddik in benodam lamokoim or to your best friend. In your halichos oilam to everybody else, the way you conduct yourself in general has to be straight. Velobakmimus. Afal gav shul Hashem shamayim. Wow. Remember, we're now closing a circle. Beitar and Tur Malka, they had their own issues. We are many, we are strong. Yerushalayim was really L'Shem Shamayim. They thought they were doing this L'Shem Shamayim. Why do they have to do all these violent things? All L'Shem Shamayim. Opening a new newspaper and cursing everybody else is not you. L'Shem Shamayim. When you're tzaddik, L'Shem Shamayim. But at the end of the day, you fight with other people, with all the justification in the world, it's not Yosho. Let's finish with a positive tone. Who were the Yosher ones? The Ovois. We have to go back all the way to the ways of Avraham, Yitzchak, Yaakov. That was the winning point. That was the praise of the forefathers of the Ovois. Obviously, tzadikim, chasidim, Ove Hashem. On top of that, there were Yeshorim. What's Yeshorim? It doesn't just mean honest in business. It means even who the worst goyim, Mamish Oiv the Elilim who do the most ugly things, they behaved with them nicely. They loved them, not loved them internally, as we're going to say soon. They behaved with them, they conducted with them civilly and in a kind of loving manner. They cared about their favor, for their good, for their welfare. Because that we need people in the world. The way the Kiyum Abriya is to be nice to the other person, even if he's a goy, let alone a Jew who doesn't think like you. Yeah, even Sdoim, the biggest Hashem, Avram didn't love them. We don't have time now, but he's going to say it later. He didn't love Sdom internally. He davened for them. You have a choyle as a Sdoimnik, he davened for him. Not a choyle. In this case, we're in danger. So that's the story here. We have much, much more to say, and we'll continue tomorrow, Be'ezras Hashem. So today the lesson was definitely, yes, about Sinas Chinam. So Sinas Chinam is sectarianism, is about starting your own little group of an arbe. It's about loving the one that you're close to, but not loving the one that you hate. So even the love, this one is not worth much. And it's all about being smug, because they were so sure that they're doing the right thing. Again, we're closing a circle now. How did we start off this year? It wasn't just Sinas Chinam. Sinas Chinam, they allowed themselves to hate the other because they were sure they were right. They were sure, I'm doing the right thing. I belong to group X, and group X has Rabbi Y, and we are it. That's it. We are the right thing. We are the world. Yeah. And therefore what? And therefore I feel good about what I'm doing. Just like those soldiers in Beitar, or the people into big families in Tur Malka, they were so sure of exterior things. He was sure of a Kadosh Baruch Hu was Ke'ilu Baal Bitachon, but inside there was something crooked. Because when you don't love your fellow Jew, the one who thinks other than you, you're missing the boat. Wow. For me, a lot of this was Chidushim. And I want to thank you for listening. And I want to thank everyone at Torah Anytime. There's much more to say. Tomorrow we're going to continue in the Gemara. And we're going to continue the story. And Be'ezras Hashem, we'll see many, many more gems, mainly from the Maral. And may we be zoiche to love each other, even people outside our communities, and bring Mashiach now. You see, even I say I want Mashiach now. That's a win. Okay. The shear is taped, and he's also found on Torah Anytime.